so quickly.
Yes. It feels more like today. Next week, about this time, I have to be in Acapulco, so not for the beach, for a university conference, but
Where did you say?
Acapulco.
Oh. That's nice.
Hope you have
Where
your
is that?
light clothes ready.
Okay, maybe we'll go ahead and start here. Teresa, since I'm going to be doing a lot of sharing screen today, would you do me a favor and just monitor if people have raised their hands or if there's questions that come up in the chat box? Thanks. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I'm excited. We have a lot of people that showed up today. This is sort of something that Teresa and I have wanted to do for a while. I know several of you have asked for a tutorial on the Google Workspace. And so I hope this can be really interactive. I've designed it so I'm not just going to be speaking at you, but doing everything and demonstrating as we go. For those of you who are in the room with Teresa or who have a spare monitor or are okay doing split screens, I also welcome you to try and do a lot of this stuff along with us today. I find I don't truly learn something until I actually make the actions and engage with something and do it myself, especially when it comes to this kind of computer stuff. So if you do want to kind of participate and try it out along with us, again, feel free to drop in the chat box if we're going too quickly and you say, wait, I don't have that part yet. I'm trying to do it myself. I want to take this at a speed where I can meet everybody where they're at. So to start, just by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with Google Workspace or Google Suites? Or is this sort of brand new for everyone? Just raise your hand if you've worked with it a little bit. Okay. So I'll start out by just giving sort of a brief overview, and we're going to start out with the main Google Drive file storage system. And then we'll branch out into how do we use Google Docs? How do we share? How do we work collaboratively? How do we use this platform to do spreadsheets? And I hope we have time to touch on forms today as well, because I think that's something that those of us, especially within the UN community, are using quite often to solicit survey information or to get responses from our constituents around the world about possible engagement opportunities that we have at the UN or sort of interventions we're crafting. So to start out with, what used to be called Google Suite, you may have heard that before, is now called Google Workspace. And what that is, it's sort of a collection of cloud storage, productivity applications, collaboration tools, and sort of online software that's all housed within the Google framework. And as long as you have internet access, you can access all of these different tools via whatever device you have, your computer, a laptop, a phone, a tablet. And so it's really versatile and really, really accessible, which is the reason why I think a lot of people are transitioning to using an online platform like Google Workspace, as opposed to being continually reliant upon things that we've typically had to be tied to our hard drive on our computer or our desktop for, such as the older versions of Microsoft Office and Word. So I want to start out by, I'm going to start sharing my screen, talking a little bit about the foundation for all of these, which is called Google Drive, which is the main file storage and sharing system. So let me see if I can go in here. Okay. And I've tried to increase my screen size. So for those of you who might be in the JCoR office and watching on a bigger screen, you should be able to see it. Teresa, can you see that now?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay, thanks. So there's a couple different ways to access Google Drive. Is there anybody in the group that does not have some sort of Google Workspace or Gmail account? Speak up now. Okay, so in general, as long as you have some sort of Google account, you will be able to access all of these things that we're going to talk about today. Even if you don't, someone who has a Google account can still share documents, spreadsheets, and things like that with you, and you will be able to interact with them. You just won't be able to share or save things on this shared drive. So there's a couple different ways you can access it. The easiest way to get to Google Drive is when you're in your Google Workspace or your Gmail account. On the top right-hand side of the page, you're going to see what a lot of people refer to as the waffle menu. It's a set of 9 dots that kind of look like the holes in a waffle. So if you click on that, it's going to open up a drop-down menu with a bunch of icons. You're going to want to look for the one that says Drive. That's the colored triangle. And you can click on that there, and it's going to open up your Google Drive storage system. Now, I know some people prefer just to be able to type something right into their search bar. If that's you, all of the functions that we're going to do today, from Google Docs to Sheets and Forms, you also have the option of opening up in your browser and just typing in drive.google.com. And if you're already signed into your Google account, that will automatically take you to Drive. So what you're going to see here in front of you is Google Drive, and it's basically a cloud storage provider. And what does that mean? So it basically means you're saving your work on multiple servers that are housed in different locations, sometimes all around the world. So you're not saving documents or files or folders to the local drive on your hard drive on your computer, which means any device you sign on with, you will be able, and you have internet access, you'll be able to access these files wherever you're at, which is great for those of us who are traveling or sometimes using different devices. There's also other benefits to using Google Drive as opposed to your hard drive computer storage, which is that all of these files are easily searchable. So I can go up here in the very top into the search bar, and I can type anything into the search bar, and it will even search words and content from within PDF documents. It goes well beyond searching just the file name like your computer does. So it's a really quick, easy way to search through all of your material to find what you need. And most importantly, and I think this is the reason a lot of people are driven to switch to using the Google Workspace platform, is it very easily enables you to work collaboratively with others on the same file or project, even simultaneously. You can add comments, you can respond back and forth, and you can see people editing your document in real time. So it's a fantastic collaborative tool. So since we've gone through how you access this, I then want to move on to what do you do in order to get a file into the drive? And there's a couple different options. So up here on the left-hand side, right underneath the drive icon, there's a button that says New with a plus sign. If you click on that, a drop-down menu is going to show up, and it's quite self-explanatory. You can create a new file folder. You can also upload a file from your computer, or you can upload an entire folder. And then you can also start and launch all of these different applications, from documents to spreadsheets to slides, which is kind of like PowerPoint, or even Google Forms right from this menu. You can also, which is my preferred method, is you can also just drag and drop files. So I have one on my desktop now that's a file for an upcoming committee meeting. I can just take it straight from my desktop, drag and drop it, and it's going to be added right into my files. And what you'll see as I scroll down here is you're going to see folders are going to appear right at the top. And this is going to be followed by all the documents that have been shared with you or that you have uploaded yourself. Now, I just uploaded a flyer for a June meeting, but I'm not seeing it at the top of this list. So what I can do is I can go right up to Drive. I can type in June, and it's going to pull up all the documents right here that I have uploaded, so I can easily find that. There we go. So it's right here, and now I can access that within my Drive. Now I do want to go back for just a moment and show you on the left-hand side of the screen here, there's again another menu. You can do the drop down of My Drive, which shows you the folders that you have created, but you can also click on what has been shared with you. So again, this is a very collaborative workspace, a collaborative platform. And so everything that anyone else designs on here and shares with you, you're going to be able to find under this category. And then I also want to show, for example, why else might you want to use Google Drive? sometimes we might have a large project that we're working on. So what I find really helpful is I can create a folder in here. And let's say Teresa and I are working on a lot of projects together. I can say coordinators, communications project. I can create that folder. I can go to my drive. That now shows up. Now we're going to talk about sharing across several different platforms and projects today, as that is one of the most important, I think, benefits of using this platform. So there's a few different ways that we can talk about how do we share what we're creating on here. So like I said, Teresa and I might be working on something together, like a coordinator's communication project. So I can look at that file folder that I just created. I can right click on it and get a drop down menu with options to be able to share. Or I can also go over to the far right-hand side of the screen where they have, this is sometimes called the kebab menu. I know there's like a food theme to these menus. We have hamburger menu, waffle menu, kebab menu. I don't know who came up with that, but it helps me remember it. Some people also call it the vertical ellipses. And so if I click on that, I get that same menu. Now, an easy way to share is by copying the link. That means that anybody I send this link to via email, or if I post it on my social media, or if I send it out in a newsletter, anybody would be able to access this folder that I have now shared. You can also, and this is the one that I prefer, you can share more directly by clicking on this share button. And that's going to bring up a pop-up dialog box that has several options in it for you. Now, I want to start out by talking about general access, which is this portion right here with the little lock icon next to it. This is really, really important because when you share a file, there's different security levels we might want to have. So for example, let's say I've created a document and I want to share it with Teresa. I want her feedback. I want her to be able to edit it as well, but I don't want anybody else to be able to see it yet. I don't want anybody else to accidentally get a hold of it if I accidentally shared it with too many people when I sent the email out or something. So I want to go to this drop-down menu and decide, at first I'm going to keep this, let's say we're working on a policy brief together. I want to keep it restricted. That means that only the person that I specifically indicate that I want to share access with is going to be able to access this document. So, but then let's say it's a policy brief, and after Teresa and I are done jointly working on it and it's in its final draft version, I can go in here and I can say that anyone with the link then is going to be able to have access to the folder or to the specific document. That means that if I send the link to Teresa in an email, she could send the link out to the entire JCoR network. They could send it out to the entire Run network. Everyone in Run could send it out to all their member organizations and their networks, and anybody who receives the link will be able to view it. So that's something that's very important. You want to make sure that with that drop-down menu, you are selecting the correct audience that you want to be able to have access to your document or folder. I also want to demonstrate, again, I'm going to use Teresa as an example. Let's say I'm going to share this document with her. I can type in her name or her email, if my computer's not frozen. And a new menu is going to pop up. First of all, if you want, when you're sharing a document, often you want someone to receive notification via email that you're sharing that document with them. So you want to make sure that this button right here that says notify people is toggled on. You want that blue check mark to appear there, because that means once you press the send button down here, they're going to receive an official notification saying you've created a folder or a document to share with them. The other really important piece to note is this new drop-down box that has appeared once I put the email in that I want to share it with. And when I click on that, you'll see 3 different options that show up. There's viewer, commentor, and editor. If I select viewer, that means that Teresa is only going to be able to see what's in that folder or that file. She can read it, she can scroll through it, but she will not be able to edit it herself, and she won't be able to add comments. And again, this is kind of self-explanatory. If I opt to make her a commenter, she can then add comments to the document that I can see and integrate that feedback. Or if I give her editing access, she's going to be able to have all the same controls that I am. She can edit the document itself. She can add pieces, delete pieces, add comments, and then also be able to edit and respond to comments from others as well. And then finally, you also have a settings icon, the gear button up here that you can click on, and that will give you additional options as well. So for example, if I decide to make Teresa an editor, she would be able to change the permissions and share. So she would be able to decide, is it still going to remain restricted access? Is it going to be general access? So you want to be careful who you give those sort of, what word am I looking for? Those permissions to. And again, if you go back to the main dialog box, there should be those same settings options as well. So before I move on from talking about Google Drive, I want to check in and see if there's any questions about the main storage drive and how that works.
Katie,
Mm-hmm.
not so much a question as I guess, for example, in my case, I should have, as I use Google Docs, for example,
Mhm.
I should have tried some of these options. I guess that's the thing that I'm learning here. I shouldn't be afraid to click on some of those things and learn what they
Definitely.
actually do. Yeah, that I haven't even clicked on some of those options. So
Definitely. And
Yeah.
I learn as I go, I guess, and check myself. And so don't be afraid to play around with these,
Yeah.
peruse and see what options might pop up. And of course, even though I've been using it for years, as with any kind of online platform, constant updates are being made. So new options might be added or deleted. So definitely don't be afraid to click
Yeah.
around. And I was going to say this at the end, but you gave me a great entry to say it now. Since these are all Google products, I mean, if you have a question, Google is a fantastic resource. I can't tell you how much I learn and problem solve just by going to the Google search engine and saying, I'm in Google Docs. How do I share this with a group instead of with a specific individual? And tons of YouTube how-to videos will come up and all kinds of other how-to blogs, and even Google itself walks you through a lot of that kind of stuff. So don't be afraid to kind of ask questions and try things out yourself. Winifred?
Katie, I'm just wanting to know, would you be sharing some of all these, whatever you've been tagging us, or some kind of notes or something that you have taken down? I mean, you must have written somewhere that you're talking about. You think you could share that with us? It might just help, I'm taking it down on my mobile, but some of the things a bit too fast for me. So if it's possible, I'd be happy to receive.
Yes, I have a lot of notes, but they don't have images with them.
No, but it's
so
okay.
I can add some of that in and then have it sent out.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
Katie, my question was, I have tried to work with Google Workspace, and it demands a login that is different to your Gmail account. And do I understand from you that, like with a Gmail account, we don't need this other Google Workspace login?
It should be seamless, which is my understanding. When you're in your Gmail account, do you have that main waffle menu that shows
yes,
up on the upper right-hand side of your page?
Yes, I have all that you explained, but
And
I know that I have been trying to access it, thinking this was something else, through this thing that you Google Workspace login, and it says to me you cannot enter here unless you're the administrator, and so it looks like I would have to make a new account or something. Don't worry about it. I'm just only putting it out there.
That's something I can definitely follow up with you on if you're still having problems with, because that's slightly different. I have a setup here for like Google Workspace accounts, which can be different than the free Gmail accounts. So I can definitely work with you to sort that out.
Maybe it's not necessary. Maybe everything is as you have described it.
Yeah, so try it out after today. If it's still not working, reach out to me and we can problem solve through that together. I'm sure it's an easy
Thank
fix.
you.
Michelle?
Yeah, I have three small questions. Okay. The first one is, when I go to the waffle there and on the top there, I see something. If we go a little bit down there, docs. So my point is, what will be the difference between Google Drive and Google Docs? This is one. Yeah. And also another question is, I also want sometimes, in my Drive, and I had a hard time to delete stuff that I do not want anymore there, you know. And also the third question is, I have 2 Google accounts, one for the UN and another one global for myself. The point is it's a little bit mixing up, you know, when I want to do something, because I have to click on my picture there to have the one, you know, for UN and the other one for my own personal email. And sometimes, you know, my documents are a little bit mixing in there, so it's not easy at all.
So to answer your first question, we're going to get to that next in terms of Google Drive houses everything that you create in Google Docs, in Google Sheets, in Google Slides, in Google Forms. It's kind of like if you have Microsoft Office Suite on your computer and you have Word and PowerPoint and you save those to the hard drive on your computer. That's essentially what Google Drive is. It's not any of these programs itself, but it's where all the files are saved and stored, and you can access them all from one place. So we will get into then using each of the other different apps as soon as we're done with this question and answer period. In terms of how you delete something, you should be able to right click or press that little vertical kebab or vertical ellipsis menu. And when that pops up, there's an option that either says delete or remove. And that one should be able to delete things permanently from your drive. In terms of the question about having 2 different Google accounts,
yes.
Since you do have that sharing function, if you're finding you saved a file or folder to the wrong one, you can easily go up and you can share those files and folders with yourself on your second account to transfer them over and then delete them from the account that you did not want them in. So again, that's the power of Google Workspace and Google Drive, is this easy ability to share and collaborate with others, including across your own multiple accounts. Does that help answer?
Yes, it helps. Thank you so much.
Okay. Jane?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. It's very informative. I wish I had known this years ago. First, I will go back to the account. Let me clarify, is Gmail account, Google account, should be same or different?
So there's 2 different kinds.
Okay.
There's a Gmail, which is the free account that anyone on earth can sign up for free and use for free.
Yeah.
And the difference is it has a little bit more limited capacity in terms of data storage and things like that. And there are some advanced options that it does not have access to. But from what each of you here is familiar with, Gmail should perform all the functions you need. When we talk about Google Workspace accounts, Gmail has access to things like Google Docs and Google Sheets and the Google Drive, but a Workspace account is often when you see organizations, instead of having @gmail.com, organizations can put in, like, for example, at JCoR2030.org as part of their actual email address. And that's something where you can manage multiple accounts and have an admin account and have subsidiary accounts for different employees and different colleagues. But whether you have a Google Workspace account or whether you have a Gmail account, they each have access to the Google Workspace apps like Google Drive, Google Docs, Sheets, and Forms.
Okay. Now, so for the recipients of documents that we'll share, so what is required? Gmail account or Google account?
So
do they have to have this account?
So anyone who gets the link sent to them can access the document.
Okay.
They just can't, if you don't have a Gmail or Google Workspace account, you cannot save on Google Drive.
Okay.
But you can comment and you can view on what other people have shared with you.
Okay. So they can still open it, but they cannot.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Veronica and then Daniel.
Sorry, I apologize, but can I add one point to your last answer, Katie?
You can add whatever you want.
Also, if just one other note, like if you don't have either type of Google account, whether it's simply the simple free Gmail account or the slightly more sophisticated Workspace account, the one kind of another catch or limitation is if, for example, you remember that blue checkbox that Katie showed us when someone's sharing a document with you, if they don't, for whatever reason, if they don't elect to notify you, to send you an email notification saying, I invite you to look at or edit this document, you will have no way to access it, because that's basically your only entry point. Is getting that email with a link directly to the document, and every time you want to edit, you have to go back to that email and that link to get to the document. So all to say, if you do not have any kind of Google account, it may be worth it to you to create one just to have easier access to these kinds of tools and spaces. Even if you don't use it for anything else, it might be worth considering just for that purpose. Because this is quite a good and useful tool that's being used pretty broadly by a pretty huge number of people, especially in this space that we work in. So it may be worth it to you for that convenience. Sorry, Veronica, please go ahead.
Thank you, Katie. It's very helpful. One thing that has always confused me a little is the shared with me. My image was that when people shared a file from Google Drive, it was on their computer or their cyberspace spot, and it wasn't on mine. But when people share with me, does that take up space on my Google Drive? Does it remain forever unless I deliberately get rid of it? Because sometimes if I'm searching for stuff, it's a little confused what's been shared and what I had on my computer. I see Winifred nodding, so I don't know. I hope I'm not the only one, but that was one question I had. And the other one was linked to the searching in the drive. I've just seen that there's a whole lot of ways you can break down that search. Like when you said June, I wasn't sure if it was just the month of June by date or whether it was the word June by word. So I suddenly clicked on, I don't know, it's not a hamburger and it's not a kebab, it's some steaks in your kitchen, I think. But they've got a lot of details on there that I haven't been using, but I don't know if you want to just show us that and have it say a word about it in the search in the browser.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up.
Sorry.
And Teresa, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but once someone shares something with you and you've opened it,
It's in your,
I do think it takes up your space in your drive. Is that correct?
I think so too. I've never actually run out of space in any of mine. I have from my multiple different accounts, but
I ran out of free space.
Yes.
That's where
Oh,
it became
Yes.
the
So-
videos.
right. So in that way,
Yes.
a practice of deleting when you don't need something might be quite a good
Yes.
habit.
And I will
otherwise
pop
it's
up a
kind of
share screen really quick, just so everyone can see the advanced search menu that Veronica is mentioning. I think that's a really good point, and definitely worth sharing and something you can explore in your own time as well. And yes, I don't know what the name is for that menu bar, maybe Abacus or something. But so again, in this search bar at the top of the screen, I think what Veronica is talking about is there is a menu icon here as well. And if you click on that, it gives you all kinds of advanced search functions. So for example, you can specifically look for PDF or a presentation or a spreadsheet if you know what type of document you're looking for. You can also look for maybe a specific person shared something with you, or you can look for some key term in the title or in the entirety of the document. So there's a lot, if you keep scrolling, there's lots and lots of different advanced search functions that you can use. I like this because I find if I save things on my own computer, on the hard drive, it takes forever to do the search when you're going through the content of all the files. This one takes 5 seconds at most. And I don't know about you, I always wish I was better at organization on my email with all of my files, but time always gets away from us and organization sometimes feels like a luxury. So that search bar is such a lifesaver in terms of time management for me as well. So I don't have to scroll through everything to find what I need. Daniel, I think you had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I did. I have a couple, there may be more technical questions, but I'm getting messages on my Gmail that I'm running out of space in my drive. I also happen to have a Google One account with 2 terabytes of space. Why is Google Mail telling me I'm running out of space?
I do not know. I do not have Google One. That is something I would immediately jump on Google and I would type into the search bar and ask the question. Teresa, do you know? If not, I'm going to jump on Google right now and try and figure it out.
Is it spam?
Well, yeah, that's one possibility. Another is, Daniel, do you happen to have multiple different,
Identity.
Gmail addresses?
Yeah.
No,
it's that
just one.
Okay.
I'm
Oh.
wondering if you have to
'Cause
connect
I was gonna say sometimes
the
one
Google
is
One
limited, the
account.
other's not.
Maybe it has to be connected. Okay.
Let's
Uh,
see.
I'll check that. If you find an answer, I'd appreciate knowing it. The other thing is, I use Google Photos and all the pictures I take go there. But any pictures I get through my Gmail account end up in my drive. Can I put them over to Google Photos? Because they take up room for nothing, and Google Photos is technically free. So
I
free
believe
But
even
it's
Google
in-
Photos though has a storage limit for
Yeah.
free. But
Yes.
I did,
Included in it.
sorry, just circling back around, you do need to sync your My Drive with your Google One. So there are a couple steps that you need to take to do that. I can send those to you later on today.
Okay,
And if
thank
they
you.
don't make sense, we can set up a Zoom call and we can do it together with share screen. And then in terms of the photos, you're talking, just to clarify, you're talking about you want to move some from the hard drive on your computer onto Google Photos? Is
No,
that what-
no, from Drive to my Google Photos.
So Google Photos is housed within Google Drive. So think of Google Drive as the overarching umbrella that stores everything. It stores like all the online software, like Google Docs, word processors, Google Sheets, like the spreadsheet, and then it also stores all the files and folders. And it's kind of like if Google Drive were the hard drive on your computer. That's where you save all your software. It's where you save all your photos. It's where you save all your files. So Google Drive is that overarching umbrella. So Google Photos is already within that.
Yeah,
So-
but these photos are not going into Google Photos. They're
So-
staying as files on the drive, separate files.
Okay. I'm gonna write this down so I can get back to you on this one as well.
But if I can add one point while you're doing that, Katie, all to say, Daniel, that in terms of your storage that's available, moving files between a kind of the open drive space and Google Photos won't save you any storage, basically, because Photos is nested within Google Drive. So it's shifting things around, but not actually, they're all coming from the same budget.
Okay,
that
but in the end, I have Google One that has 2 terabytes of space. I've got space for the next
my gosh, that's
700
cool.
years. So that shouldn't be a problem if I can link the two.
Yes, I think you're right.
Okay, thank you.
And I do believe there's a way to go in and move it fairly simply. So I've made a note to send you instructions on that as well later on.
Good, thank you.
Michelle, did you have an additional question?
Yes, I have. Thank you so much, Kathy. You know, when we are in a screen of a drive, Google Drive, you know, is it a way on the left side of it to have the name of the files that we have, for example, when we have a sample, when we go to Google or to another. So, you know, it's just like to classify, to organize, you know, what we have as documents, but to be, in order to see this file there on the left side. Is that something it can be done with Google Drive or no?
What do you mean? You want to see all the documents you've created on the left-hand side and all of the...
No document, but file. For example, you have My Drive, computer, shared with me, recent, shared, spam, trash, storage, okay? You have that on the left. If I want, for example, to say UN, if I want to say for migration, if I want to say whatever, you know, and can do that or no?
Yes,
Yeah,
you can
that's
create
your
file
folder.
folders and the
Yes.
folders will appear there. So let me pop up my share screen
Yeah.
again here really quick. I need to close out of what I was looking up for Daniel here. Let's get up here, do the share screen. So like we said before, when you get to this left-hand menu,
Yes.
next to My Drive, if you press that little down arrow, it's going to show you all the file folders that you've created. So if you want to create one for migration and drop all of your migration related documents, spreadsheets, forms in there, you can do that. And the way to create new folders is again, at the upper left-hand side of the page, the big new button with the plus sign, and you can create a new folder, name it whatever you want, and drag and drop anything from your computer or from your Google Drive into there.
Okay. Oh, and yeah, okay. I did it with, I did it with my second screen. Okay, thank you.
And then I'll take one more question. I think Margaret's been waiting really patiently, and then I want to move a little bit into Google Docs. I want to make sure we get through enough basic content today. So Margaret?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think part of my question has been answered, but I wanted to check about compatibility between the Google Space and the other work. Like if I'm receiving work from maybe other spaces, can I be able to convert it and save it in a Google Space and the Google Space like back and forth?
Yes, that's a fantastic question, Margaret. I'm glad you brought that up. So anytime someone sends like a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation or a PDF to you as an attachment on an email, when you right click on that attachment, you have the option to open it up in Google Docs, in Google Drive, in Google Sheets, in whatever the corresponding program is for the Google Workspace. And similarly, if you're creating a document in a Google Workspace, but you want to share it with someone who might not have access to that or might want to access it in Word or PowerPoint or something instead, when you save that, you do have the option to export it as like a .ppt PowerPoint file or a .docx, like for a Word file. So you can go back and forth between the two. The only time I would caution you against doing that is if you want this to be something that's a dynamic document that you are going to have multiple editors, multiple commenters on, it's best to keep it in the Google Workspace, in Google Documents or something like that, instead of converting it back and forth. Because again, one of the strengths of the Google Workspace applications is that collaborative aspect and how accessible it makes that. And before I go on, I see we have a couple quick questions in the chat box as well.
Okay.
I have multiple presentations in PowerPoint. I know this is a Microsoft product. Google search does not seem to find them. Kevin, when you're talking about the PowerPoint presentations, have you saved those in Google Drive?
I thank Katie. No, they're just sitting there in the PowerPoint folder. And I just was curious about the power of the Google search engine, and it didn't seem to find them. So I'm assuming that they'll have to sit there and I'll have to find them just by diving into PowerPoint rather than asking Google Docs to find them.
So the only thing that Google Drive and the search function with Google Drive will find for you are things that you have saved in Google Drive. Good. So if you want your PowerPoint presentations to be more easily searchable, you can drag and drop them or manually upload them to your Google Drive, and then they will be searchable by that search function.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. So I am going to jump back to sharing screen again. I want to go into Google Documents, which is kind of, for anyone who's familiar with Microsoft Office Word, essentially what Google Docs is it's a web-based word processor. So again, you do not have to have anything downloaded to your hard drive. Just by getting on the internet and getting into your Google Workspace account, you can create Word documents and work on them collaboratively with others. Okay, so we're back into the share function. So I did want to mention, like I said, no software is required. That's a huge benefit of this. There's no licensing fees. There's no purchasing of software that needs to happen. And again, a huge benefit is multiple people can all work on the same project at the same time. And something I tend to really like too is that everything is automatically saved as you work. So you don't have to worry about losing your work, or if your computer crashes, again, all of this is saved on international servers across multiple different locations. So you will not lose your work. Huge benefit and a huge stress reliever, if you ask me. So there's a couple ways that we can access Google Docs. Again, if you're on your main Google account, you can go up to that waffle menu and you can scroll down until you see this blue paper icon that says Docs. Now, some people like to rearrange things. If you're going to use Docs more often, you can move it up. You can kind of place it anywhere you want. Maybe you want to put it up here because you use it much more frequently. So you can click in and you can access it that way. Again, if you're someone who likes to type things in, you could also go to docs.google.com, and that's going to pull up the same interface. Or if you want to go straight into designing your own document, you also have the option of going into your Google Drive, and when you click on that new button, a drop-down is going to appear and you can go to the Google Docs function and go to either a blank document or from template. Now, I prefer going to the Google Docs main interface because it will show me all of my recent documents, as well as show me right in that top bar, kind of with a gray background, that will show you your options for creating something new. Now, before we start, I do want to give you just an example of something that we can pull up here. Here's a report that Teresa had created. And again, it's very, very similar to Microsoft Word. Anything you can do in that, or like the free version for Macs, I think is Open Office or Pages. Anything you can do in those, you can do right here in Google Docs with the added benefit of easy collaboration. So let's go back. And so you can either start with a blank Google document, or there's also a template gallery. If you're someone who has trouble starting something, you'd rather have a template to start from. There's a few you can see here at the top to start from, or you can press that drop down gallery and you can scroll through all kinds of options as to what you might want to create. Today, let's just go ahead and let's start with a blank document. And that's going to pull up our main screen. This is going to look similar for every single document you create within Google Docs. First thing that I usually want to do is I want to go up into this upper left-hand side of the screen and I want to title it. So let's just say this is going to be our notes that we can share later from the tech tutorial. And once I've entered that name, I'm going to go ahead and press enter. Now, I don't know if you saw that because it went really quickly, but right up here where my arrow is at, there's a tiny cloud with a check mark in it. That is basically your document status. When you have that check mark inside the cloud, it means that your document is saved and up to date as is. So as we're typing and as we're changing things within that this document, as long as that checkbox in the cloud appears up at the top, you know everything you've done thus far has been saved. The only reason what you're working on would not be saved for some reason is if you lose internet connection. So if that does happen, make sure you check before you sign out or close out your internet browser window. Make sure that check appears inside that cloud to show that all of your work will not be lost. So now that we've created our title, this is very, very similar to Microsoft Word in terms of the interface. For example, if I wanted to go in and change the margins, just like Word, go into File, go into Page Setup, and I have all kinds of options as to going through and setting different margins. In terms of my text, I have the copy formatting option. I have the size. I have the different typeface that I want to choose. I can add images to my document with the image button. I can add links with the link button. If you've worked at all with Microsoft Office Word, this should be extremely similar to that platform setup. And that was very intentional by Google. They wanted to make something that was easily accessible so people would not have to learn a brand new program. Now, let's say I'm creating this and like Michelle said, maybe I have a specific place that I want this saved in. Right now, everything just basically gets saved in Google Drive. So if I want to change that, if I want to save this in a specific JCoR tutorials folder, for example, I want to go to File, and I want to go down to the option that says Move. And when I click on that, a dialog box is going to pop up. I can either click on a folder that I want it added to, or if I go to the bottom left-hand corner of that drop-down menu, there's an icon for a new folder, a little folder button with a plus on it. And if I click on that, I can create a new folder. And once I create that, then I have the option. And now my document is saved in that new folder that I created. So let's try and type something here. Oops. And I'm just typing something quick there so that I can show you what some of these save and comment, or excuse me, what some of the comment options are going to be. So let me see here. So if I want to collaborate with others, the first thing that I want to do is I want to take note of up here on the very upper right-hand side of the page, there is a blue share button. This is very similar to what we saw on Google Drive. Once I click on the share button, I'm going to get an extremely similar dialog box that's again going to allow me to type in, and let's say I want to share it with Teresa again. I can click on her there. I can decide, do I want to make her an editor, a viewer, or a commenter? I'll go ahead and make her an editor on this. She might want to add some things to this document later. I can send her an individualized message saying, hey, this is my tech tutorial document. Please feel free to comment on it. Once you're done, let me know and I'll send it out to the rest of the group. And again, you're going to have that same general access option as well. Do I want to make it restricted? Do I only want Teresa to see it at this point? If I'm sharing it with all of you, I want to make sure that anyone that I send the link to has access to that, and I would be fine with sharing this with anyone. So I want to toggle and change that. So again, I want to bring that up because within Google Docs is where this sharing becomes really, really powerful. I might want to say add Teresa on there, and she's an editor. Sorry, Teresa, you're getting a blank email. I don't want to take the time to fill that in right now. But now Teresa has the option to go in and she can comment on this. So since I know that Veronica is in the room with us and she might have this pulled up, I also want to share it with Veronica so we can have a little bit of interaction here. If that's okay with you, Veronica, I'm going to give you editor access as well. So basically, the reason I'm going to ask Veronica to go into her email now and to access this document is because I want all of you to be able to see what it looks like while people are simultaneously working on the same thing. And oh, I think I just saw Teresa jump on. So could you see at the top of my screen here on the right-hand side now, I now have an icon for Teresa because she's logged into the account. And I can see there's a colored cursor on the page that if I hover over, it gives us the name of whoever is working on this document at the same time. So as many people as you want to add and invite can all work on, add text to, or edit what I have already put there. And again, this is all dependent upon the amount, that option that you gave them. Did you give them a viewing option? Did I give the person I shared it with the commenting option? Or as in Teresa and Veronica's case, I gave them the full editing option. So the next thing I'm hoping Teresa can help me out with, since she's diving right in there, is with the comments. This is something that if I don't want someone to be able to edit my document, let's say I am very protective, I spend a lot of time on this, but I want input from others, but I don't want them to be able to change it without me as the owner being able to view it first. What we can do is add comments. So in order to add a comment, if you have commenting access to someone's, you want to highlight the part you want to comment on. And you're going to see when I highlighted that word drive, I had some options show up here on the right-hand side of the screen. So I can add an emoji reaction if I want, I can suggest edits, or I can add a simple comment. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to add a comment. And since Teresa added this, maybe I want to specifically address my comment to her. My comment is, should we specify that this is Google Drive? So there's no confusion. So maybe the main editor would want to add the qualifier Google on there. Now I want this to go directly to Teresa because she's the one who added this. So if I want to tag her, I can use the @ symbol and look, it automatically pre-populated for her. If I click on her, now she is automatically going to get an email that says that I have sent her a comment. And if I click this box that says assign to Teresa, she is then going to be responsible for checking off when this task is done. So when I assign, you can see now there's a check mark that appears up here. When Teresa views what I have commented on and she edits accordingly, she can click this check button to show that it's done. And then that comment disappears. Now it's not gone forever. Again, on this top menu bar, you have a comment history button. And you can click on that and it's going to show all the comments that have been made and resolved. So if you resolve something, but you're thinking, oh, maybe I want to rethink that, maybe I want to go back into that, you can access it here up in this comments bar and you can reopen it if you want, which if I reopen it, it will add it back to the main document page, and anyone who has commenting access will be able to see that. Now, Teresa, if you could be so kind to just add a comment somewhere on this page for us so we can show how we can respond to comments as well, it would be much appreciated. So again, she's highlighting the portion that she wants to comment on, and that's going to bring up a little pop-up menu on the right-hand side of your sheet or your document, and that's going to give you the option to add a comment. So there we go. Do we need to add a section on sheets as well? So I can go in here and click on the ellipses button. Oops. There we go. Okay, I apologize. Backtrack. If I click on the text that she sent itself, then a pop-up box appears and I can now respond to her. So you can have a conversation too that starts growing as several people want to comment on the same option. So again, the reason we're sharing this today is it is a tool that's becoming much more universally used, because when you're creating a document using Google Docs, multiple people can contribute via comments and editing all simultaneously. So before I move on, I'm going to pause again and open back up and check and see what kind of questions you might have, because a lot of this builds on each other. So I don't want to keep going without making sure that we've got that basic understanding under wraps. Oh, I see, Kevin. Any way to enlarge the font for the demonstration? I already did that a bit. I will do that more going forward. Thank you for raising that issue. I'm sure you were not the only one that was thinking that. Are there any other questions?
Go ahead. We have a question here.
Kate?
Veronica and then Rita.
Okay, I tried to access my email and my whole system froze twice. It told me that I had to turn the sync on. And when I tried to do that, I think I've been having some computer access, online access issues, but twice it froze. Is that heavy duty? You know, if I'm trying to sync my Google Drive and my email?
I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Teresa, since you're sitting next to her, do you have a better idea of what's going on with that?
I think it's just that it's about your overall settings in Google, like automatically syncing. I think in general, Gmail, Google Drive, the whole complex is pretty high intensity operation for any device in terms of the amount of data that it's processing. Even to open your email is a pretty large amount of data. And when you add Google Drive into the mix, it's a much larger amount of data. And so I think if your computer is struggling for any reason to process data, then it's one of those applications that's got to struggle with every time.
Yeah. Thanks, Teresa. It's a little hard for me when I can't see the computer screen in front of me, but as I've said before, and I'll say again, anything that's kind of left you hanging after this presentation, or if you're trying out these programs and you come across a stumbling block, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to work with you something via phone, or we can set up Zoom and we can do a share screen and work through it together. I know for me, it's a lot easier to help troubleshoot when I can see something right in front of me. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I would rather get everybody on the same page and get everybody up to speed on how to use all these tools so we can better collaborate together. So I will hope that you will reach out to me if need be. Rita, I think you had a question as well.
I have two, not question. One is a comment. The other one is like something that so the comment is that there is an advantage here in this Google Documents when you are you are not emailing, but you're kind of, asking questions or like commenting or asking for suggestions. So it's like almost like a conversation. At the same time, you're getting your work done. I mean, on a particular article or whatever it is, a project, whatever it is. Is that what I'm seeing when you're explaining to us? I see.
Yes, definitely. And let's say like at the UN, we all serve on a lot of coalitions. So let's say we're on a subcommittee and we're all working on a concept note. But let's say I'm here in the US, one of my colleagues is in India, another is in Australia. Instead of sending out a Word document attachment on an email, and then everybody's making edits, and we have several different forms of the same Word document, we can put it all in Google document, this Google Doc. Everybody can work on it according to their time zone from wherever they're at their convenience. And whenever someone opens it up, it always appears as the most up-to-date version. So it's a really organized way to keep track of all the different feedbacks, opinions, comments, without having several different versions of the same document floating around. There's always going to be one central place.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point. I mean, I think that's very, it's going to be very helpful, and you're saving time perhaps also. Right? Yeah. The other thing is, suppose you're on a Zoom, and I think you mentioned that, I mean, you can have a Zoom call and that kind of a thing of showing us, of course. But suppose you're doing a document, while you're doing this document, you can be also on Zoom.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to check with you. Like, it's something that can go side by side when you're kind of working on a document or something.
Yes, and very similar to the Microsoft Office suite that I'm sure all of us have been using for years. Google Workspace has kind of a comparison application for most of the main functions that you would find in Microsoft Office suite. So Microsoft Word is Google Docs. Microsoft Excel, where you can use spreadsheets, is Google Sheets. We won't have time to get into it today, but PowerPoint is very similar to Google Slides. So any kind of thing that you can do with the Microsoft Office suite that you want to make more collaborative, I highly recommend going and checking out on Google Drive. There's probably an app for it. Yes, Teresa, exactly. Teresa just put in the she's putting some of the stuff in the chat box for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Are there any other questions before I jump back in? Okay. And Kevin, I'm going to try and increase the text size. If you still can't see it, Teresa, if you could keep an eye on the chat box for me and let me know if I need to make it bigger, that would be very helpful. Oh, and I saw another hand just popped up. Margaret?
Yes, I just wanted to find out, how does Google Space relate to Dropbox? Like sometimes Dropbox, you keep in so much work, and the Google Space also, it seems it has a lot of space to store your work.
Yeah, so Dropbox is also a cloud storage system, just like Google Drive is a cloud storage system. But the difference is that Google Drive also allows you access to all of these different web-based software and apps, whereas Dropbox is just that storage receptacle. It doesn't have the functionality of all of the different applications in it. Does that help clarify?
Thank you.
Okay. So we don't have a ton of time to go through every single one of the apps. So I do want to quickly introduce you to the Google Sheets, because I know a lot of us use spreadsheets and Excel as well. I'm not going to go really in depth on that one, only because we don't have a ton of time, and I want to make sure we get to Google Forms, because I think that's really important as well. So let's just jump right in, go back to share screen. Okay. And then again, all the options are going to be the same as before in terms of how we get there. Go to that waffle menu, and you can scroll down and you can click on Sheets. You could also type sheets.google.com in this main search bar on your web browser, or you can go to Google Drive, you can create new, and you can go to Google Sheets. Again, I like the main platform that shows me all the ones that I have already created, as well as the option to start from blank or to use a template. And I didn't show you this, but it's the same on Google Docs. You can always, when you're working on a document or a sheet, you can click on that icon in the upper left-hand corner, and that will take you back to this main dashboard for the app that you are using. So again, I want to give you some examples of what we've done in these spaces. So for example, I keep track of all the comments and the topics that we receive via our global community hours. And so I have a giant spreadsheet on Google Sheets where I've stored all this information. Google Sheets is also what we have used to be able to create a document where we can share with a larger audience all of the social media contact information for all the members of JCoR. And so this is one that I have shared globally. So anybody who receives this link can access this document. It goes in our JCoR guides to conference engagement guides to a lot of the conferences at the UN. I put it up every once in a while on our social media channels, but I have specifically made sure that this document is view only when I share it. So when I go up to the share button, the link that I share is viewer only, which means that although the entire world can access this, if they get access to the link, no one can edit it but me and the few people that I have allowed to give editing access to it. So that's really, really important. Again, be very careful when you're sharing what options you have selected. So let's go back. This is going to be exactly the same way to start a new document as we used with Google Docs. You can go to the template gallery. You can see if something matches what you want to create. I often find the templates here for Sheets don't match what we do within our UN work, so I'm frequently choosing the blank. And again, it's very much the same as what we did before. You're going to name your document up here in the left-hand corner. You're going to get that same little cloud with the check mark that will show up once you name it so that you know that it's being saved. If you want to save it to a different file folder, again, you can go down to the file and you're going to have the move option. Oh, I need to name it before I can do that. And there we go, it's saving again. Now I know it's saved to the drive. I could go down to file and I can move. I can again save it to tutorials for JCoR. And that's going to save it in the tutorials folder on my Google Drive. And again, we don't have time to go into everything today, but if you're already familiar with Microsoft Excel, you are going to be able to find all the same functionality on here that you would see in Microsoft Excel. So again, you have your main file or your main menu bar right here at the top of the page where you're going to be able to insert formulas and different rows and columns. And again, you have all the formatting options that are going to show up here on the secondary menu bar, such as fill colors, borders, text and font options. And then again, just like with Google Docs, you are going to have the option to share this and allow other people to edit and comment on the document simultaneously. Now, I really want to make sure that we have time to go into Google Forms. So are there any specific questions about how to use Google Sheets? Again, I'd be happy to go through with people one-on-one how to do more spreadsheets and functions in them and stuff, but I really want to make sure we have time to get to forms today. Okay, I don't see any hands, so I'm going to go ahead and go into Forms. So I think this is a powerful tool that more of us will start using on a regular basis. And again, we should know what to do by now. If we want to get to a new app, we can go to the waffle menu. And this time we're going to scroll down until we find a purple sheet that says Forms underneath it. Again, you can move this anywhere you want. You can also go into your Google Drive, create new, and create a Google form that way. Or you can type in at the top of your screen, forms.google.com. They will all take you to the same place. And again, I have my Forms dashboard. And this can be, I find the templates here to be very useful. Now, some of you might be asking, what am I going to use Google Forms for? Quite often, we can use these for signups, for events. They're also a great resource that we use at JCoR to be able to solicit information and feedback to contribute to joint statements that we're composing to submit to UN conferences. So for example, here's one that Teresa had already created. After CSW 67, we were seeking feedback from our members and constituents around the world, asking them to share their experience or perspective on gender and gender inequality in their communities or countries. And so as you can see, Teresa created a form where people can submit their information. And if we keep scrolling down, there's a couple questions that people can respond to. So this is the type of thing that you can create in Google Forms. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start from blank. So you can all see how to do everything. So give it just a minute to load here. And let's say today I want to create, since I work on communications, I want to create a communications questionnaire. I want to find out how are we doing with JCoR communications, what can we do more of or less of, and I want to be able to send this survey out to some of our members. So I've gone ahead and titled it. And it's being slow to save today. There we go. Again, we're seeing an indication that all changes are saved in Drive. And again, this is done automatically. As long as you have a as long as you have an internet connection, all changes will be automatically saved as you go. So here's the basic form. Now, if you want to, maybe you want to go up and you want to change the colors or the theme. So if you click on this artist palette icon on the top of your screen, you can change all kinds of things about the theme and the way that your document looks, from the text size to the text itself and the typeface. You can even choose an image as like a header. Now, Google does have some default ones that you can use. You can also draw from the photos file, the photos that you have saved on your Google Drive, or you can upload them from your computer as well. I'm just going to drag and drop something today. Let's say we're going to get a picture of the UN up there, and I'll go ahead and do that. That's going to add that image to the top of our form. And then we can go through and we can also change some of the colors on our forms. Like let's say I want something a bit brighter. I want something that's blue. We can add that as a main color. And if you saw when I added that, it automatically adjusted some of the background colors as well. It automatically suggests colors for you, and you can change the brightness or opacity of those. And once you have your theme where you want it, let's talk about what goes in here in terms of actual content. So again, we've got our title across the top of the page. And let's give the people that I'm going to send this out to, let's give them a little bit more information. So let's say we want to hear from you. How are we doing with our communications? And again, you're going to see options pop up. You can change the style of the font. You can add a link in there. You can add a bulleted list. We're going to just leave it as a simple question for now. And then we're going to move into the question portion where you can design what type of questions that you want to ask people. Now, this can look different according to what the purpose is of your form. So for me, let's say I want to say, do you read? Let's say I want to ask about the content of the monthly bulletins that JCoR sends out. I'm going to say, do you read JCoR's monthly bulletin? And then we have many options here in a drop-down menu that we can choose as to the type of question we want to make it. We can make it multiple choice. We can make it short answer. We can ask someone to upload a file. Let's say we want people to register for an event and we want them to upload a photo for an ID badge. We can ask them to upload a photo. Now, to give you an idea of some of these different options here, these are the ones that you're probably going to use the most, these 5 at the top. We can get into things later on if we have time, like linear scale, if you're doing surveys. But again, these 5 at the top are the ones you're going to use the most: the short answer, the paragraph, the multiple choice. Most of them are self-explanatory. The multiple choice, if you set up a question as multiple choice, whoever is responding to this survey or questionnaire or form is only going to be able to select one of the options. If you have a question where, say, you want to find out about general interests of people, like say I designed a question that said, which one of JCoR's communication methods have you engaged with? And I want to list Facebook and Twitter and emails and our monthly bulletins. And I want someone to check everything that applies. I'm going to want to use the checkbox function right here. Now, if I'm asking someone to register for an event, and maybe I want to know what country they're joining us from, maybe that will help me decide what language interpreters I need, I might want to use a drop-down menu. So for the question we're doing right now, I'm going to select multiple choice. And as you see, I get to select my options. So let's say, do you read JCoR's monthly bulletin? The options would be yes or no. Now, where it gets interesting here is you can also make your questions conditional. And by that, I mean, for example, with a question like this, if I'm saying, do you read our monthly bulletin, yes or no? If someone answers yes, I might want to ask them additional questions. But if a user answers no, I don't want them to even see those additional questions. They won't apply to them. They don't need to be there. So one of the really strong pluses of using this form builder is that you can do conditional questions as well. So in order to do that, let's say I want to make this conditional. in case you have not seen it yet, I want to draw your attention over to this menu bar that's on the right-hand side of the screen here. Now, the plus button allows you to add additional questions. In order to add logic, to add conditionality to this, we're going to scroll down and we're going to go to this two-bar icon, which means to add a section. And this one's going to say, we're going to title this section, oops, for those who read our bulletin, so that I know that any questions in this section are specifically going to be people who read our bulletin. Now that I've created this new section, once I go back up to my previous question, oops, it is not showing up. Here's live troubleshooting. Let's see here. Let's add a question in this section. Are our bulletins helpful for you? So that's going to be the next question. Let's see if this fixes it now. Now, once you go up to the previous question and it's multiple choice. Oh, no. Let's go to more options. Okay, here we go. So we're going to click on the more options button. Again, it's the kebab menu in the lower left-hand side of the question box, or it's the vertical ellipses. And I'm going to select go to section based on answer. And once I do that, you're now going to see new options show up next to my question. So next to the yes, I'm going to want to say, go to section 2 for those who read our bulletin. Now, for those who said no, let's say this is only a 1 question long form. I can just say after this question, if they've answered no, all I want to ask about is the questionnaire or the monthly bulletin. So if they don't read it, they can just go ahead and submit the form. Now, at this point, I'm like, well, I just created this, but I had a little struggle while doing it. So I want to check and I want to make sure that this is functioning properly. If you go to the top of your screen, there's an icon that looks like an eye. If you click on that, that's going to give you a preview of what your form looks like. So I'm going to click on that and let's see. Okay, look, this is what our questionnaire is going to look like when someone clicks on our link that we share with them. Let's see. Do I read JCoR's monthly bulletin? Yes, I do. When I click on yes, the new section would show up if we had already created a question, but we haven't yet in it. We haven't finished that. If I create no, then when I click next, it's going to go ahead and submit. So I click yes, and I can see I haven't completed my next question. So I need to go back and do that. So again, I'm going to go back to my form. And since we don't have a ton of time, again, I want to go through sort of some of the main functionality things here before we get any deeper. There are some other options over here on the right-hand menu bar. You can also import a question if you've done other forms in the past and you want to just copy and paste a question from another form. You can also add descriptions sometimes. So what this does is it adds a text box. What I often use this for is when when someone comes to the end of a survey or a form, I want to say, thank you for registering for our event. Or I want to say, thank you for submitting your feedback. We really appreciate it. I can put that information in this text box here. And that is a way to add text without having to mark it as a question. Now, I also want to talk about a couple other things that are important. So if we go back up here to our question, we can reorder our questions by clicking on this 6-dot configuration at the top here. I can then drag and drop wherever I want questions to appear if I want to reorder them as I'm designing. And then also very, very important, at the bottom of each question dialog box, you're going to find a toggle button next to the word required. If I toggle that on, it means that someone will not be able to submit this form unless they have answered this question. It's not going to allow them to submit it until a response has been filed. So, for example, if I have someone who's signing up for an event, on the category where I have them submit their email, which I need to send them all the event details, I'm going to make sure that that question asking them to submit their email is going to have that required button turned on. That's absolutely essential. Now, we also have some other options up here in settings. We can decide how we want to collect our responses. And we can also choose some other settings down here as well that are going to be default formats. It's nothing you need to go into or know about now in terms of whether or not it's a need when you're creating your first form, but it is something I would encourage you to, when you have more time, go and look through and play around with some of those options. And then most importantly is going to be a response screen. If we have time, I might ask Teresa to pull up a form that she's already got some responses from so that we can see some of this. But when you go to this responses tab at the top of your screen, you're going to be able to see in real time as people submit their responses, there will be a brief summary of all the information that has been collected. You can also separate it out by question and by individuals who submitted responses. And then also, if you're someone who prefers to see information that's been submitted in a form, you prefer to see that in a spreadsheet, you can click on this link to Sheets and it's automatically going to transfer all of your responses into a sheet on Google Sheets. So that's a very powerful setting to use, or a summary that you can use that's built into the program. And then most importantly, how do we share this with people? Once we have our form done, what are we going to do? If you go to the top of the screen here on the right-hand side, you're going to see a purple send button. If you click on that, you are going to see option pop-up box that comes up. And there's several different ways that you can share a form, a questionnaire, or a survey. The easiest one is going to be via email using the envelope icon here. And you can design a message to send out to people to ask them to sign up for an event or to ask them to fill out a questionnaire. You can also include the form in the email, but I think it's best if you just leave it as the link that it's going to send in the email, because that ensures that all the formatting is going to show up properly. The other option you have is you can also click on and you can share the form or the questionnaire with people as a link. This means I could take this and I can put it in my newsletter, my e-newsletter that I'm sending out to people. I could also put it on my social media and say I'm trying to collect information about feedback on JCoR communications. If you follow us on Twitter and you're seeing this, can you please fill this out for us? Or you also have the option to share your form or your survey via hyperlink. What this means is if you have a website and you want to share your form with a button on your website, you can do that using this hyperlink. You're probably not going to use that most often. Most often, you're probably going to use the email or the link button that you can share directly. And then the last thing I want to make sure that I touch on with forms is the sharing function in terms of if you want to do a collaborative form, you want several people to be able to contribute to this. Unlike with Google Sheets and Google Docs, the sharing option for collaboration is in a slightly different spot. It's still in the upper right-hand side of the page, but it's on the kebab menu now instead of a share button or the vertical ellipses. So if you want to have other people help you build the registration form or the questionnaire or survey, you can go down to add collaborators. And that's going to bring that general sharing box that you saw before, where you can decide who gets to view, who gets to edit, who gets to add comments. So because we're running short on time, I want to stop there. We can certainly go into some more options on here, but I definitely want to give everybody a chance to ask some questions on that. Because again, forms is one of the things that I think some of us have not been as familiar with, have not been using as much, but it's something that we all, I know, have events and surveys that we're sending out, and that could definitely be a functionality that we could all start using more often within Google Drive. Are there any questions?
Katie, there's one from Jim in the chat box about basically, is there any advantage to Google Slides versus PowerPoint?
Okay, so I see pros and cons to both. So I do think in terms of some functionality like animations and some more advanced themes and things like that, Microsoft PowerPoint can be a tool that allows you to express that creativity in a little bit more detail. But again, if you want to collaborate, if you want to create with somebody, if you want to solicit feedback and work together in real time, the Google Slides is going to be vastly superior in that capacity. So if you are creating something completely on your own, only you are creating it, it's only for your purposes, and you're more familiar with and comfortable with Microsoft Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint, feel free to go ahead and use that. But again, if it's something you want to share more, if it's something you want to be collaborative, or if it's something that maybe, like, for example, JCoR has regional workshops that we participate in throughout the world. And so Teresa has gone to a lot of these workshops. We are now encouraging more of our members to participate. And there's sort of an introduction to JCoR and what do we do presentation. Teresa might want to create something like that in Slides and save it on Google Drive, so that with a shared folder for all of the JCoR members. So whoever is giving that presentation has access to that and is able to edit it to make it fit better for the particular region they're delivering that presentation in. So pros and cons to both. It's personal preference and also utility in terms of what project you're specifically working on and what your intent is. Daniel.
Yes, I'm just wondering, can you go back and forth between PowerPoint and Google Slides?
What do you mean go back and forth?
Well, if I do something on PowerPoint, can I save it in Google Slides?
Yes, you can. And you can also take something you've created in Google Slides and you can save it as a PowerPoint file. So I did have a member contact us recently saying, someone sent me something in Google Slides, but like I want to view it in PowerPoint. You can easily open it up in Slides and then go under the file button and you have the option to download it as a PowerPoint document. Now, keep in mind, if you are going back and forth between the two, as with any document that you're using across different platforms, sometimes there might be slight formatting changes or things like that that you want to keep an eye out for. But by and large, the integrity of the document should be maintained even between the two. And I do want to pause before asking another question. Teresa has been so kind as to pull up some examples of what responses look like when responses come in on forms. So I'm going to ask her if she can share her screen and show you what those responses might look like.
And as it's loading, I'll also add to that response to Daniel's question, just always to remember the difference between when you're working kind of online and offline is that anything that you change while you're working in the Google online space, like with Slides or with any of these, is automatically saved and shared with whoever you're sharing with. But then once you download or take it offline, that's now only on your computer or device. And any changes you made there, you'll have to upload all over again. They won't be reflected online in any way because you were working offline. So just remember there's kind of two different planes you're working on. One is shared and communal, and the other one is only in your space and only you have it.
Thanks, Teresa. And could you do me a favor and just mention the toggle button for accepting responses as well, because that's extremely important when we're creating forms.
Okay, yes, sorry, I need to make this more visible. Okay. Okay, so this is just as a sample, a form that we used when we had an online workshop for Uganda. So everything we were collecting was kind of digital because the whole thing was online. So you can see we had 12 responses to this particular form, which shows up right here at the top. There are kind of three options across the top here. Our initial questions, which you see here, the responses and settings. So if I want to see the responses, then I click there. And this is what Katie wanted me to point out. There's a bar right here. It says accepting responses. If I want to close the form so that nobody else can answer it after some point, I make sure I click that, and you can see it went bright red to alert me this form is closed. Nobody can access it. No one can submit any kind of response. And just to confirm that, it says right here, if anyone were to try to submit it, they would get this message basically, sorry, it's closed. We're not taking any more answers. If you wanted to customize that somehow, you can edit that, but that's the automatic response that they would get is this one. So just to give you a little bit of this looks slightly different depending on what kinds of questions you ask, whether they're short answer or multiple choice. The way that they're kind of summarized by Google automatically will show up a little differently. But since we asked for what's essentially a short answer, which was what's your email address, we just get a list of individual responses. Then in this next section, we asked what was essentially like a multiple choice. Well, it was a scale question technically. We asked people to say for a list of statements, kind of how much they agreed with them from on the scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And so across the bottom here, this was all automatically generated by Google Forms itself, which is another advantage of this tool. So for example, one statement we asked them to respond to was, the workshop increased my sense of the relationship between my personal ministry, and the global social, economic, and political systems. And so we're asked to say, do I strongly disagree, neither agree or disagree, agree, or strongly agree with that statement? And fortunately, as you can see, all of our responses here were either agree or strongly agree, which was great because that's what we were going for. And so we just get kind of a numerical breakdown as to, okay, of the 12 who responded, 5 said I agree and 7 said strongly agree. And then there's just a series of kind of other similar statements about the outcome or effect of the workshop. And so we have a different numerical breakdown for each question. We also asked a short answer question, which was, do you have any other comments you want to share? So those, again, kind of, we get those back in the form of a list because there's not really any way to make that a numerical or graphical summary. But depending on, for example, if we had more of a traditional multiple choice question, it would probably be processed in the form of a pie chart instead of a graph like this one. So kind of just depends on what type of question you ask, but how they process or present your responses.
Why don't you show a few in sheets? Because that's, I think, interesting.
Oh, sure. Veronica also said this is a good feature to share for anybody who's not familiar. If you would like to kind of save all of this data in a spreadsheet form, which is also, in my opinion, a very nice way to have things saved to refer to later, especially if you're collecting responses in different languages and you want to later have a place to kind of translate everything into your preferred language. You can click this button at the top, view in sheets, which then automatically puts all of your responses into a very nicely organized spreadsheet. And this one in particular, you can see across the bottom here, I've got a number of different sheets in this one workbook, because as a part of this workshop, we ask people to submit things multiple different times throughout the workshop. And that form you just saw was only the final evaluation. So I saved them all to the same workbook, but as you can see, it's all the same information, but it's just presented in the form of a spreadsheet, which is often an easier way to look at all the responses together, especially if they're not numerical and they're more text-based responses. But it's all the same information, just presented as a spreadsheet. And as with everything Katie already mentioned about sheets, for example, if I want to take this offline and save it in my personal files, I just go here, download, and if I want it as a spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet, I pick that. I can save it as a PDF if I prefer, so that's usually not very useful in the case of sheets, but have those options. Again, same as before, if I wanted to share it, it's all the same functionality of sheets. It is sheets. But it's a way of kind of linking forms to sheets that is very helpful.
Thanks so much, Teresa. I appreciate it. I realized that as I was doing this, that we save all the forms in your file. So I didn't have access to the responses. And I realized even if everything is sinking in right now and you feel like you've got this and you're feeling so empowered, I'm sure questions are going to pop up as you try and do things on your own. So I did drop my email for any of you who don't have it in the chat box. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Honestly, no question too small. And I love problem solving. So even if it's a question I don't know, I really enjoy the mystery and the hunt to try and figure it out. So please do reach out and let me know if there's anything I can help you out with.
Thank you very much, Katie.
And I'll stick around for a few minutes in case anyone else has any questions they want to follow up on.
Thank you so much, Katie. Wow.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
And
Thank
Teresa,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to Michelle for suggesting that we do this. It was like a year in the making to find these schedules. So she deserves credit for speaking up and saying what she wanted and what was needed to make it happen. So
Thank you.
Katie, might we have a follow-up?
If you'd like, we could definitely do a follow-up. If I hear from people saying, I want to know more about this or more about that, we can definitely do more sessions.
Great, thank you.
And like I said, I'll put together an email that we can send out to all participants today. with some of what I think are the easiest to follow how-to tutorials on YouTube. And I can also put together a document just based on what we went through today as well. But I find the visuals are usually much more helpful than just a document alone. So
Okay, great, great, great.
Thank you.
Maybe we can give them a feedback form where they write in their their
Oh,
extra.
we could.
their
We
remaining
could.
questions and practice
That's
using
right.
the form.
Maybe you should ask us to prepare.
Yeah.
That will be a good test.
There will be a practicum to completion of this course.
Do we get a
Yeah.
certificate?
A test sheet for us. Teresa is very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Kathy.
you, thank you,
Thanks for joining us.
you. Great.
Thanks, Teresa, for making the office space available for anyone who wanted to come in person.
Sure,
Great.
of course. Happy to hang out, Veronica, anytime.
Yeah, when you're in the same building, it helps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes good sense.
Yeah, maybe the next session can be more in person, and then everyone can bring their computers and we can go around and troubleshoot all the different questions that come up or something like that.
Thank you.
Not a
God
bad
bless
idea.
you.
Thank you, Marianne.
Okay.
Say bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Katie, once again.
Thank you, Rita, for joining us.
Wonderful. Just so and so well presented with all your, expertise in this Google documents. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Some people are having so much fun, they don't want to leave. That's
That's
a great sign, right?
It seems like everyone, do you have any further questions, Veronica?
No, just, well, I was going to ask you afterwards.
Oh, that's fine.
Katie, what do you do? I'll ask you quickly then. I have 2 Google identities. I mean, 2 Gmail addresses.
I have 3, so.
Okay, all right, great. Well, everything was fine until a few weeks ago, and because I could easily jump from one email address to the other.
Yeah.
Then something happened with a settings update that messed up my computer and messed up in particular my getting from one to the other. Has something happened in an update that affects that?
When you say settings update, was this some sort of update on Google, or was it an update to the software on your computer?
I'm suspicious. No, I think it was the Microsoft. I'm not sure what it was, but I'm suspicious that it was an update.
Okay.
And I'm not sure from whom. I looked back because I've had major problems, and now I'm showing Teresa here. Like I have 2 Google things for Google.
Different shortcuts on her desktop.
Shortcuts, and one would take me straight into one identity. The other one, I used to always click on Chrome, but now it's asking me, all right, who is using it? Makes it all huge, even that the visibility has changed. But if I wanted to change here and I click on my profile, it's telling me I have to turn on sync. It's telling me all sorts of things that I never had to do before. That's why I'm thinking it's a settings issue.
Yeah. By any chance, were you using your computer in a different country and then came back?
Brazil.
And this happened?
Yeah, when I came back, since I've been back from Brazil.
Okay.
And it came up with the default thing linked to Brazil when I came back.
Okay, because I know, like, if I even leave the state or sign on from a different IP address, then I have to re-sign on to my Google accounts. It's like a basic security feature.
I've had to do that, and I think I've done it with both of them. But it's the link between the 2, and I don't like the fact that I now have to set them up as separate identities. And I have a feeling I was asked a question and maybe I said it would help, and then it hasn't. It's made it much harder.
Yeah, and I haven't encountered that specifically before, but I think it had to do something with you left the country and then came back and had to sign in again. It probably asked you questions at that point, because I have not had that issue. So I know there hasn't been like a system-wide update. Normally when Google does that kind of stuff, it adjusts it within the settings that you already have. The only other thing I can say is, Teresa, I have never downloaded the shortcuts to my desktop. I've always just jumped on via Chrome. I'm wondering if those shortcuts have those options and something got toggled on or off with those. That doesn't happen with the web-based version. But again, this is why I would love to be there in person, because I do what Teresa's doing right now. I would just kind of take a look around and see what's going on.
I mean, first.
But
we
it
don't need
is
both.
linked, I think you're, yeah,
First of all.
yeah.
The other is, I kind of want to adjust your set because you have like an automatic zoom to make things more visible. But I think there's something that's
There's
getting cut off.
there's something that's wrong.
So if I can just resize temporarily.
Yeah. Anyway, I shouldn't told you, Katie, but I just wondered.
No, I'm
So
looking up at
you
the same
don't-
time what the name is of that menu that you found, because I've seen it a lot, but I don't know what the menu name is and I'm curious.
Which menu was that?
The one that kind of looks like an abacus.
Oh,
So just adjusting the size of everything here.
yeah. Now, what are you changing
So
there?
I changed the zoom is all, which was just in the
And
command.
that was changed when this happened, the problem happened and I came back
Yeah.
from Brazil.
So I just did that because I think I think we're so zoomed in that we're not able to see something.
That's what I'm wondering.
There we go. And it was too zoomed in and it was getting cut
And
off.
I never zoomed it in, so something happened. That
that was in your computer itself that
well, it
setting
was
changed.
linked to the questions that were asked me when I came back from
Okay,
Brazil. or
interesting.
something. Okay, yes, I'm in. What am I saying back up? Okay,
Always
all right.
choose. Okay.
Okay, so now it should sync. Okay,
Yes.
this is much more what I had before.
Yes.
Okay,
Way to go,
so
Teresa.
the
Woo,
Zoom.
woo.
Very good, thank you.
So that's the typical standard
Okay,
size.
yeah.
If you wanted it any bigger or
Okay,
smaller.
but you did that through Zoom, through the kebab menu.
Well, yes, first I did it on your computer itself, because your computer itself was set to 150%.
But I've been changing that,
Okay.
trying to resolve it.
Okay, so you want it at 100 though,
Yeah,
normally,
yeah,
okay, so that's where it is now.
With my cataract, I had to have it much
Bigger.
higher, so that was part of.
Well, that's a big improvement in life.
Okay.
Yeah, so now they're both at normal size
Yeah,
now, but
okay,
if you ever
so-
wanted to change it, it's the kebab and then Zoom is
all
right here.
Good, okay,
That's
maybe
what it
that's
is.
what I haven't done.
Someone really
And
likes
that's the
food.
reason you can't see.
What?
I said someone really likes food with these menus, because I just looked up the one that you found that I didn't know the name of. It's a cheeseburger menu. And there's apparently there's also a bento box menu.
Oh my
stop.
goodness,
Bento box.
honestly, now that I wouldn't be familiar with, so.
And I'm just gonna pull up your other one. It looks like, does that look normal to you?
Yeah, you see, I gave them different colors.
Yes, I see you've got the
Yeah,
RSH
yeah,
butterfly.
Yeah,
Then this one's.
but then
rose.
normally I could get the two together. Anyway, I don't want to.
It looks like the sync is on for that one as well.
Yeah,
already, so
now
that's
this
good.
one isn't as important. The grassroots one, I would only rarely go into. It's the other two.
And that one
much
is
more.
off now. Do you want it on or off?
Leave it off because
Okay.
other people were using it.
Oh, okay.
too. No, I don't want it synced.
But there's your main
definitely.
one
Yeah.
anyway. It's all, it
Okay.
should all be
All
normal
right,
now.
okay, thank you, and I'll experiment, see if that helps. me with
Thanks for
some
that,
other-
Teresa.
Thank you, okay.
Major props. I'm glad we could help sort that out for you, Veronica. It sounds like that was
Thank you.
becoming a big
Hope so,
headache.
because it's been driving me crazy, and even in other programs, the Brazilian thing was entering, so I don't know what I said yes to at some point. Or the
I think
computer
we've all done that
interpreted.
before. Just clicked on something to get to the screen we needed and later on said, what did I do?
Then you sat down something
Yes.
to.
Ripples.
Okay,
We've all
all
been
right,
there.
let me leave the two of you in case you need to do business. 1 minute.
All right.
I just wanted to say
Okay.
thanks, Teresa. I'm glad we were able to finally make this happen. I was worried it was going to be a bit too basic, but we had a good number show up. So
Good seeing you.
Yes,
All right.
we're looking
sorry the
forward.
forms section got cut a little short. I guess that just means we'll have a part 2.
Sorry, my
Okay.
speaker settings just got a little funky
All
because I
right,
unplugged
bye-bye.
the owl.
Street.
Bye, Veronica.
All right. Well, remind me to ask you something else.
Okay.
I can plug my ears now.